Hola, mis amigos, and welcome to the latest edition of Touching Base. So, the trade deadline is fast approaching, and this is right around the time that teams need to know whether or not they're going to be sellers or buyers going into the later part of the season and into the playoffs. I've jotted down 5 potential trades that I believe will help out these teams that I'm about to mention in the long run as well as the short run. And I'm interested to see if these pieces would work well in these organizations. I've previously talked about the trade deadline and how the old system, the old way that they used to do it is they had 2 separate trade deadlines, one on July 31st and another one on August 31st. The July 31st trade deadline was the regular trade deadline where it was a simple transaction, no other teams needed to get involved for a transaction to go through. This season is the first season that they've started a hard July 31st trade deadline where no transactions between teams can really happen after July 31st going into the last 2 months of the season. That adds a lot of intrigue going into August. It also really forces teams to know whether or not they're going to be in it to try to make it to the postseason and try to make a run in October, or if they're going to sell off some pieces and look towards the future, 2020 and beyond, to help their team overall fight another year and compete for a championship down the line. The first trade that I'm going to talk about today is a couple of crosstown rivals in New York, where I believe that I feel like these 2 teams in the Yankees and the Mets should link up and make a trade to help both sides. In my trade, I have Noah Syndergaard going to the New York Yankees for a prospect package of Clint Frazier, Thairo Estrada, Jonathan Loaizaga, and Anthony Siegler. The Yankees picking up Noah Syndergaard is an obvious move to bolster a weakness that they have in their starting rotation. The Yankees are a very formidable team. They're probably the odds-on favorite to go to the World Series in most people's eyes, but their one glaring weakness would probably be their rotation. Luis Severino hasn't pitched all season. James Paxton has been up and down this entire season, and he's never been to the playoffs. Masahiro Tanaka is somebody that you can count on and rely on because he's been there and done that and proven in big spots that he knows how to step up to the task. And J.A. Happ and CC Sabathia rounding out that rotation. Going into the playoffs, it's kind of you kind of want something else. Just one more piece to make you feel really confident going into the playoffs. And I feel like Noah Syndergaard, sliding him into that rotation would put them in a premium position going into the playoffs to really make a strong run. And I feel that they should pull out all stops to try to make this trade happen. And I understand it's dealing with the Mets, and the Yankees and the Mets have never been on good terms. They don't really see eye to eye, and they don't really want to help each other out. But in this situation, it's beneficial for both sides. Yes, the Yankees get a premium ace starting rotation piece, but the Mets get back a very good haul back in that Clint Frazier is probably a blue chip prospect, one of the best outfield prospects that you're gonna find in the game right now. He's been up and down with the Yankees last season and this season. He's definitely shown in his short time here that he can generate offense and really help out a ball club. The rest of the other pieces in this trade, like an Estrada and Siegler, the catcher, switch hitting catcher, I feel like they're gonna really help out the overall position player roster that the Mets have put together. They have some young pieces in Alonso and McNeil, but I feel that they still need a little bit more youth and a little bit more rejuvenation in this team. I don't see them as a competitor this season. I don't see them as a competitor next season unless big things happen and a big turnaround happens. And one of the quickest ways to expedite the process is to take an amazing piece that you have in Noah Syndergaard and flipping him for 4 pretty good to really good prospects, something that's been of value the last number of seasons, because as you can see, youth and athleticism plays in the show nowadays, and I feel that the Mets have been trending in the opposite direction. They've been getting more veteran and less young and exciting. So I definitely think that they need to press the reset button and try to get things rolling in the right direction as quickly as possible. Hopefully it doesn't take forever for them to do a rebuild, but I feel that they are in a prime position to do so. This actually works well sliding into my next trade, where I have the Mets sending a couple of pitchers to the Milwaukee Brewers. In this trade, I have Zack and Seth Lugo going to the Milwaukee Brewers for Mauricio Dubon, a shortstop prospect in the Brewers system. Now, at this point, I feel that the Mets should be acquiring as much talent as possible. And Mauricio Dubon is a very, very highly rated, one of the top 5 prospects in the Brewers system. And this guy can purely hit. He's a very good hitter. He's hitting over 300 in over 90 games in the minors this season. And I feel that the Mets need to bring in as much impact talent as possible to try to expedite this rebuild process that they have. I see them taking Jeff McNeil as one of their everyday infielders. I feel them taking Ahmed Rosario, their shortstop, and putting him in the outfield. So I feel that entering Dubon in at shortstop and then having McNeil play second base with Clint Frazier, Ahmed Rosario, Conforto, Nimmo, Siegler, the catcher that I had in the previous Yankee trade. I have a lot of young position players that are going to make a strong nucleus for the Mets for the next number of seasons. It's not going to be this season or next season. It's going to be down the road. The Mets are going to be consistent contenders if they have numerous prospects that are valuable and all-star caliber position players. The Mets haven't had a homegrown all-star in numerous seasons. Honestly, other than David Wright, I can't think of a homegrown Met who's been an all-star before this season, where they had both McNeil and Pete Alonso. For the Milwaukee Brewers, this trade fills a need in both the bullpen, where Seth Lugo is definitely gonna help the Brewers bullpen, because they've been worked a lot this season, and Josh Hader, Jeremy Jeffress, they had Knebel, but Knebel went down. A lot of innings for that bullpen, and we saw last postseason that they kind of ran out of smoke towards the end, and I feel that entering another piece like Lugo will definitely help them out, as well as Zack Wheeler, a premium starting pitcher who I feel needs not only a change of scenery, but he needs to be thrust into an environment of competitive playoff atmosphere. This guy's stuff plays. He throws 98 with very good breaking stuff, and he's a premium starting pitcher who, for a good stretch of time down the stretch, probably could portray as a number 2 or number 3 starter. He just needs to be in the right environment to succeed. And I feel that the competitive juices in Milwaukee right now, the way that this team has been getting deeper into the playoffs each and every year, I feel like he could be one of the pieces that puts them over the top and gives them a deeper playoff run to try to compete with the Dodgers. They ran the Dodgers to Game 7 last season, and they didn't have much of a rotation. So who's to say what would happen if they got another rotation piece to go along with that formidable lineup that they already have? It'd be interesting for me to see a fully loaded, in my opinion, Milwaukee Brewers team. Staying in the National League, I have another trade that I have in mind, where I would have the Atlanta Braves making a swap with the San Diego Padres. In this trade, I would have Kirby Yates, closer of the San Diego Padres, going to the Atlanta Braves for Colby Allard and Kyle Wright, a couple of starting pitching prospects from the Braves system. The Braves are a very strong team as we sit here today, but one point of emphasis that they could use to improve would definitely be their bullpen. Their rotation is solid, their lineup and defense are very, very good. And although Luke Jackson has done a pretty good job out of the bullpen and saved 18 games so far this season, I still feel that one more veteran piece would just put them a notch ahead going into the playoffs and give them a much more polished look going into the playoffs. I just look at the Braves as an incomplete team when they don't have a premier bullpen piece, in my opinion. I feel that they could go into the playoffs right now and do decent, but I don't see them as a World Series contender just yet, but you never know. Any trade could blossom into a beautiful marriage, and it could end up working and they could go off on a run. From San Diego's side, they're getting a couple of starting pitchers that are definitely going to help them down the line and into the future. Currently construed, I don't see them as a playoff team just yet. Who knows? In the National League, the wild card race is so packed that any team can go off on a 10-game winning streak and just be able to vault themselves to the top and hopefully stay in that position. Personally, I feel that San Diego's better suited to try to swing for the fences next season, and they should bolster their team as much as possible with their rotation. The ballpark being as spacious as it is, I feel that fortifying a rotation with swing and miss prospects will eventually turn San Diego into a perennial playoff contender, and who's to know if they take the next step and could be World Series contenders soon. Switching over from the National League to the American League, I have the Houston Astros bringing in a pitcher from Detroit. I have the Houston Astros acquiring Matthew Boyd, left-handed pitcher, from the Detroit Tigers for Kyle Tucker and JB Bukauskas. At this point in the season, almost every team could use a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher because that's basically what's in demand in this market. Pitching. The Houston Astros have a very strong duo of starting rotation pieces with Verlander and Garrett Cole at the top of the rotation. Now, adding a pitcher like Matt Boyd does a lot to help them out, because if you look at both Verlander and Garrett Cole, they're both fastball, slider, right-handed pitchers, and I'm not saying their stuff looks similar, but they attack hitters in a similar fashion. I feel that adding Matthew Boyd to this rotation will not only give teams a different look, it throws them off because it's a nice way to split up Cole and Verlander. He's under contract for the next 3 seasons after this one. So it's not like you're going to lose him for nothing. You're going to bring him in. He's going to give you a different look going into the playoffs, and you have him to build around for the next number of seasons. Justin Verlander isn't going to go anywhere. Garrett Cole will be a free agent at the end of this season. So if you want somebody to have as a staple in your rotation, Matthew Boyd gives you a nice cushion for the next number of seasons. On Detroit's side, they're bringing in a pitcher in JB Bukauskas, who will definitely bring in high velocity energy to the team, as well as Kyle Tucker, one of the best outfield prospects in the game right now. I feel that Kyle Tucker is the main piece going back towards Detroit, and he gives them a very, very good, and he brings a very, very good bat to a Detroit team who doesn't have a very strong farm system. Giving up on 3+ seasons of Matt Boyd is definitely going to cost a good amount. So the number 2 prospect in the entire Houston system will probably be enough to do it. It's a tough pill to swallow if you're Houston, but Matt Boyd not only puts you in a position to better yourself and give you an advantage coming into the playoffs, he also gives you a piece to build around for the next number of seasons. The last trade that I have in mind is probably the most hypothetical one, because I don't know if the Giants are going to sell or they're going to buy. They have been on fire as of late, so who's to know if this trade is even going to happen, because who's to know if they even want to sell. But let's say, for the sake of my trade, that they do sell. In this scenario, I have Madison Bumgarner going to the Minnesota Twins for Trevor Larnach, Nick Gordon, and Steven Gonsalves. In this situation, Minnesota brings in a proven postseason pitcher. In recent years, they haven't had a piece going into the playoffs that you felt confident about winning that game outright, regardless of anything. Madison Bumgarner is one of the most decorated postseason pitchers of this generation, and adding him to any postseason roster definitely notches you up a couple of pegs on pedigree alone. This man is a World Series winner 3 times. He was able to basically put the Giants on his back the last World Series that they were in 2014, and he basically was the driving force in that entire playoff run. Minnesota's team has surprised a lot of people this season in how well they've hit and how well they've played overall. Before the season, I expected them to be contending for the playoffs. I did not see them dominating their division the way they have at times this season. And I feel that adding Madison Bumgarner to that team definitely makes them a team to be reckoned with going into October and could possibly make them ALCS contenders. Bumgarner would only be under contract for this season, so the amount of prospects that the Giants could get back aren't going to be the same level of prospects as some of the other trades that I've talked about, but I feel that they can get a good amount of stuff back for him in Trevor Larnach and Nick Gordon. Nick Gordon being D. Gordon's younger brother, D. Gordon, second baseman of the Seattle Mariners, and also son of Flash Gordon, who used to pitch in the major leagues as well. The Giants are in a position where they need to be acquiring as much talent as possible, and like the Mets, they should be looking towards a few years down the road. Would it be awesome to see the Giants try to make one last run, with Bruce Bochy's last season being this one, and maybe send them off with one last playoff run? That would be awesome to see, but realistically, I don't think that they have the pieces in place to be able to do that. Right now, they don't match up against Chicago, Atlanta, the Dodgers. You need to kind of realize where you are overall and be realistic about the expectations that you have for your overall team. And I feel like this is a good time to try to get stuff back for him. And who's to say you won't re-sign him in the offseason, a la the way that the Yankees got Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman a few seasons back, and then re-signed Chapman that exact same offseason. So you might be able to retain him long term, but flipping him now will definitely help benefit you in the long term. And you can just bring him back in the offseason, pay him whatever he wants. At this point, he deserves it in San Francisco. Now, I wanted to take a moment to congratulate the 2019 Hall of Fame class. This was one of the first classes where most of the players I saw personally for a good amount of my childhood. And growing up with these guys, I am proud to say that I saw a lot of these guys play at their peaks, and it's really cool to see somebody that you saw growing up just finally reach the pinnacle. So I wanted to say congratulations to Roy Halladay, Mike Messina, Lee Smith, Harold Baines, Edgar Martinez, and Mariano Rivera. Now, I'm going to end off today with my favorite player right now, which is the Los Angeles Dodgers starting pitcher, HyunJin Ryu. Ryu has been in the league for the last number of seasons, but this is the first season that I've actually seen him put it all together. He's 11-2, and he's leading the majors with a 1.76 ERA. The next closest is Scherzer with a 2.3 ERA. So he is a good distance away in the ERA title. He's 11-2. He has a 1.76 ERA this season, which is over 50 points better than the next guy in Scherzer, who has about a 2.3 ERA. And he's 11-2 on the Dodgers, leading the league with winning percentage, and he's a big reason that they're leading the league in winning percentage. Last season, the LA Dodgers saw what not having home field advantage did to them in the playoffs. So I really think that this season they want to do their best to secure home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and I feel that he's a big reason why they are in first place at the moment. Along with Bellinger, I don't know who's been the most valuable player for that team so far this year. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to hear back from you guys. Let me know how you guys think about my trades. Please let me know what you guys think about trades yourself. Give me some ideas of what you guys think you want to see happen next few weeks before the trade deadline, and how strong do you think that your team is going into these last few months. As always, thank you for watching. See ya.